and New Jersey for over 3 decades. Their mission is to provide personalized service which ensures that you, your family, your business, or your assets are safe and protected. Call attorney Paul S. Labiner today, 561-998-2362, and let him begin the creation of a financial blueprint in conformity with your needs, desires, and concerns. It took much effort and hard work for you to enjoy all that you have today, so it only makes sense that you implement strategies to protect and defend it. The law office of Paul S. Labiner, PA, is a reputable law office nestled in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida, that is dedicated to providing you with personalized legal services that meet the specific needs of your family. Attorney Paul S. Labiner designs estate plans that ensure the most effective transfer of wealth, implement policies to mitigate income and estate taxes, and draft wills and trusts to maximize your family's wealth. Call attorney Paul S. Labiner today at 561-998-2362. You are listening to the Ask the Expert Show with host Steve-O. We will be right back with more experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Join us every Thursday from 6 p.m. Now, get ready for more Ask the Experts.
And we are back. This is going to be an exciting show because our next guest, who is a lawyer who practices estate planning, we have 8 shows that we do around the country, and estate planning is our #1 show. And we are blessed enough to have one of the greatest estate planning attorneys in South Florida. And if you've never heard our show before, at the end of the show today, you'll understand why I call him the greatest. He doesn't know this, but I just got through having surgery. So I'm sitting on a wheelchair at my house because the show must go on. But let me welcome Paul S. Labiner, attorney, to the Ask the Expert Show. Good afternoon, Paul.
Hello, Steve. It is so nice to see you. I did hear about your surgery, and I do wish you well. God bless for speedy recovery. It's so nice to see you back, and I'm delighted to be on the show as always this afternoon. And
it's been a while because you went on vacation.
It's been a while, and then we've been dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic issue for a while. So it's wonderful to be back.
Well, first of all, Paul, let's tell everybody about your practice.
Okay, so again, my name is Paul Labiner. My focus of my practice is really family planning. I know Steve always says estate planning, but I look at the engagement more in a holistic approach from the standpoint that the dynamics of the family unit in terms of trying to create a financial blueprint that addresses virtually every aspect of the family. Tax planning, mitigation strategies to ensure for an orderly distribution of the assets at the time of death, developing cohesive plans from a standpoint of protecting and preserving assets for asset protection. Unfortunately, with this pandemic that we're experiencing now, creditors and predators and other unforeseen and unfortunate set of circumstances are presenting themselves. So a big part of my practice these days is counseling and advising clients how to best preserve and protect their assets. And more often than not, as we're going to discuss today, is the dynamics of the family unit, because you can go on the internet and that's my phone, and get a and get a plan that's very easy to establish. But it doesn't give you the subjective information. It doesn't give you the information that really is heartfelt in terms of developing a cohesive plan. And that's really where I excel, and that's really where I try to develop cohesive plans for the client.
How has your practice changed with this pandemic going on? I know you can't meet clients face to face like you used to, but your doors are still open somewhat. But how have you had to change doing business?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I mean, there are a couple things. I mean, one of the biggest issues in terms of my practice is how to effectively execute the documents. How do I execute a document when a client can't come into the office? And I'm more often than not faced with a Zoom meeting like you and I are doing today,
Right.
or some other technique that does not require a face-to-face contact, but is using the technology that we have today. Fortunately, I have developed and have ensured that my documents can be effectively notarized. I've gone through the process of being educated. I've gone through the process of filing the necessary bond. I've gone through the process of learning and requiring all of the necessary protocol that when I see somebody like yourself, Steve, and we're in the midst of trying to execute a document, I can legally notarize that document just by this communication that we're having today. So,
wow,
believe it
I
or
didn't
not,
know that.
yeah, really. Okay,
That's amazing.
So that is pretty cool, and this is a very new phenomenon that I took the time and the effort and the expense to incorporate into my practice because people needed documents. And I wanted to make sure that those documents were properly executed. So, I can see somebody who's actually signing the document. We can notarize those documents. We can have those documents witnessed, electronically. So yes, the dynamics of the practice has changed. And I guess the other issue that has really changed to a great extent is that because of this pandemic, people are much more sensitized to their mortality or to their illness. And people are spending more time, people are spending more time looking and reviewing and contemplating and considering, well, what if, what happens, if I need to go into the hospital? Do I want extraordinary measures taken? Is ventilators even included into my healthcare surrogate? Many people have never even thought of that. Until this pandemic, the issue regarding ventilators, has become a major consideration. So there's modifications frequently that needs to be done in terms of the documentation. So thankfully, and unfortunately, I've been busy.
Yeah,
I've been busy.
I got to say this. I thought about you. When I had my knee surgery, I actually was put into a nursing home because they do rehab there. And I thought about you because my roommate, who was 78 years old, I'm hearing him on the phone talking because he's got a bad heart, he's got high blood pressure, 78 years old, and they told him he's got pneumonia. So I'm thinking about you, Paul, because he's on the phone with people. Now, I want this money to go to this person, and I want that. And when they took him out to do something, I asked the nurse, I said, do you hear many of your patients here going, doing almost like a will over the phone? She said, you would not believe it. And you and I have talked about that there's many people who don't even have a will.
Well, that's true. And, and I hate to say this, Steve, it's unfortunate that a tragedy and an unfortunate set of circumstances we've been experiencing, over the course of the last 4 or 5 months has precipitated people to really think about their mortality, think about their health, think about, how they're going to develop, a strategy that's going to make some sense in terms of distributing their assets to their loved ones. But, doing it at the 11th hour is not always the best time to be doing it.
No,
I must be honest with you. As much as I try to encourage people, listen, do it while we can sit down and we can comfortably address the issues, where we can comfortably discuss all of the salient considerations, where we can comfortably, come up with a blueprint, that addresses, all potential contingencies, and not just do it and, because, I'm concerned that I'm in the hospital or I'm going into the hospital And frequently I do get those phone calls.
I think
So,
what you have is you have this great big checklist in your head. You know what people need that they wouldn't even think about, that you're able to tell them, like a ventilator. Who would ever think about a ventilator? You know, and you don't
exactly.
have to be in your 70s. I mean, if you get this virus and you're going on a ventilator, but you are so right. People wait till the last minute, and that is like the worst way to go about doing something that's so important.
No, agreed. I say this time and time again. Most people spend 99% of their time in accumulation wealth. In working and trying to invest it properly and trying to focus in on the accumulation phase. Give me 1% of your time, just 1% of your time, so I can truly address, and I promise you, you give me 1% of your time, it will pay off in spades in terms of having the peace of mind that you have a plan in place that deals with all of the personal issues, that deals with the psychological components that invariably come into play. And I know in the second half of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I outlined that has become such a major problem in my practice in terms of the psychology and the dynamics of the family unit. I can't tell you how many times, Steve, somebody comes into my office and they always paint this beautiful picture that they have the perfect family. There's no problems, everybody gets along, okay? Unfortunately, more often than not, and not even at the time of the demise of the patriarch and the matriarch of the family, the dynamics of the family unit, when there's money involved, because that's basically what I do.
It changes.
It changes dramatically, Steve. It changes dramatically, and I will tell you, it's ugly. It gets very, very ugly. And fighting between mothers and daughters, fighting between siblings, fighting amongst any different family member. Why? Because of the money involved.
Wow. Well, like you said, when we come back for the second half, we're going to talk about conflict resolution, planning, and you've seen it all. And I think people who haven't are in line for a rude awakening, how it goes, what real life is. And I also know that one of the things, because we've talked about, is you want to do everything you can to keep your clients out of the probate court. We've talked about that because that gets real messy as well. Let's give everybody your phone number and your website address.
Sure. Again, my name is Paul Labiner, conveniently located here in Boca Raton, Florida, right on Federal, just north of Yamato. My telephone number is 561-998-2362. And my website or my email is paul@plabineresq.com. And my website is bocaratonestatePlanning.com.
And I'm going to throw this in there. I'm going to shock Paul. And if you need a good personal injury attorney, he just happens to know someone with the same last name. Is that right?
That is right. That would be my dear son. My dear son is the principal personal injury and accident law center, also located here in Boca, and he does quality personal injury work. So if in the event of an automobile crash or a slip and fall or malpractice, my son is well experienced in that area, and we'd be delighted to assist you in that regard as well.
You don't happen to have his phone number, do you?
Of course I have his phone number. His phone number is 561-372-3800, and his name is Brandon Labiner. So
okay, I had to do that. I had to.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. We're going to go to break, and we're going to talk about families when we come back. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Steve.
The law office of Paul S. Labiner has been providing quality and cost-effective legal advice to professionals, businesses, individuals, and families throughout South Florida, New York, and New Jersey for over 3 decades. Their mission is to provide personalized service which ensures that you, your family, your business, or your assets are safe and protected. Call attorney Paul S. Labiner today, 561-998-2362, and let him begin the creation of a financial blueprint in conformity with your needs, desires, and concerns. It took much effort and hard work for you to enjoy all that you have today, so it only makes sense that you implement strategies to protect and defend it. The law office of Paul S. Labiner, PA, is a reputable law office nestled in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida, that is dedicated to providing you with personalized legal services that meet the specific needs of your family. Attorney Paul S. Labiner designs estate plans that ensure the most effective transfer of wealth, implement policies to mitigate income and estate taxes, and draft wills and trusts to maximize your family's wealth. Call attorney Paul S. Labiner today at 561-998-2362.
And we are back. This is the Ask the Expert show. We're on every Monday and Thursday at drive time, 6 to 7, not just on 1470 AM, but 96.9 FM, 103.9 FM, 95.3 FM. And you can also catch our show today on our Facebook, which is Ask the Experts, Steve co-host. Go back later on and watch today's show. We're talking with attorney Paul Labiner. I'm sorry, I'm not going to call him an estate planning attorney anymore. He is a family planning attorney now, which, listen, that means guardianship. It means probate. It means wills. Some people call it elder law, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, the hardest part about your job, Paul, is dealing with the family dynamics. You've seen it all.
You know, I've been doing this for 40 years, and, you know, it's terribly unsettling to see what transpires when it relates to the dynamics of money. And as we both know, money has some very positive attributes, but money also has some very negative attributes, particularly at the time of the demise of an individual, particularly at the time where the family unit no longer has the matriarch and the patriarch. And there are, you know, the ugliness of the anger and resentments, I should say, that have festered within the family unit over years and sometimes even decades, you know, unfortunately comes to the fold. You know, I can't tell you, I'm dealing with a situation right now, just to give you an example. You know, I have this wonderful elderly, you know, client. She passed away within the last 6 months. She was 94 years old. She had her husband predeceased her, obviously. She had a daughter and a granddaughter. The daughter and the granddaughter have not been able to communicate and have a cohesive relationship for years. And she was concerned. She was concerned, what's going to happen upon my death?
She thought just we cut out the will.
You know, what's going to happen to my death? You know, I can't leave everything to my daughter because my daughter will leave everything to her, you know, to her husband and her husband's children, and that's not the thing that I want. You know, I certainly can't leave everything to my granddaughter because then my daughter is going to be upset. So what do? Well, we finally came up with a plan that we distributed the assets equally amongst the granddaughter and the daughter. Okay, so you would think, okay, that's fine. That clearly did not go well. Okay, the daughter was upset because mom left half of the estate to the granddaughter. Okay, both of them were upset because I didn't leave it outright. I created a trust, and the grandmother insisted. Okay. Because she had nieces and nephews that she loved, but she knew the dynamics of these two ladies and did not want to have any family members as the trustee. So she names me as the trustee. I got to tell you, Steve, this is like the worst situation I could possibly be involved in, because I have two ladies that no matter what I do or say, they just can't seem to agree. Okay, and
So
you know what? And it's
so
unfortunate.
Attorney Solomon, this is very hard. What to do?
It is very hard, and you know what? And it's all about money. It's all about control. It's all about, you know, situations that people can easily resolve. You know, I have other examples. You know, people are always concerned about what's going to happen to their money in the event of a dissolution of marriage. You know, they don't want they don't particularly care for their daughter-in-law or son-in-law, but they want to leave money to their child. And you know, how do I do that effectively? You know, so I can leave money to my child, but you know, I don't want my daughter-in-law ultimately to get some of that money. Well, there are strategies to do that. You know, oftentimes we talk about, you know, setting up trusts like I did for this, you know, for this client that I just made reference to, and have, you know, individuals as the trustee to manage those funds. But these are easy solutions to address. The problem that I see is that people give little or no consideration to their planning. They really just simply say, okay, listen, you know, when I'm dead and gone, I don't care. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, Steve. And that clearly is not the case, because everybody cares. Everybody wants to have their assets, you know, subject to an orderly disposition. They don't want that money to be dissipated due to a lawsuit or to a creditor or to a divorce. And there are so many different ways to accomplish that simply by sitting down and developing a plan that, yes, may be a little bit more complicated than you would like. Yes, it may be a little bit more expensive to establish than you anticipated. But trust me when I tell you, spending the time and effort now will save hours of legal fees and hours of fighting amongst that family at the time of your passing. And these are easy solutions to address.
Are you ever able to smooth everything over with everybody?
You know, some people, you know, that's a great question. The answer to that is no. Okay. Because if we were, we wouldn't have a court system. We wouldn't have judges, you know, trying to, you know, address disputes amongst family members. But these disputes amongst family members, much of the disputes can be resolved prior to the passing of an individual. Because when you think about what the court system is saddled with, forgetting about the criminal issues, but the civil matters, more often than not, it's a fight about money. Family law issues, they're fighting about, you know, alimony and child support. Probate issues, because I heard a little bit about your show before I got on today. Probate issues, you know, we're talking about the fight of the money after, you know, the distribution of those assets after a person dies. I'll give you another example. I just came to mind. I'm sorry, but I had this long-standing client. These clients, they've been clients of mine when I was practicing law in New York. So they've been clients of mine for over 35 years. Okay, I knew the parents, I knew the children. Lovely family, successful family. Everything was fine. All of a sudden, I get a phone call from the surviving spouse, who's like 86 or 87 now. And she says, Paul, I want to change my will. I want to disinherit my son, Steve. I said, what happened? Well, they're fighting. They're fighting, because there's a business involved. The two boys are fighting. And my son is being unreasonable. And I don't want to leave him a dime. Well, I said, Myrna, don't make any hasty decisions. Let's sit down. We'll talk about it. So the first time she comes in, and she's got a couple $1 million, so she's got some wealth. She has 3 children, two boys that are in the business and a daughter. So she comes in. The first thing she says, well, I want to disinherit him. And then she says, no, I want to give him $25,000. And then we finally decide, okay, she's going to give him more than the $25,000 because I think that's the right thing to do. But I'm getting phone calls now from everybody. Well, what happens if he contests the will? What happens, okay, what happens after the fact? Do we have the necessary plan in place to ensure that she had capacity? Do we have the necessary plan in place to ensure that there was no undue influence? And, believe it or not, these are legitimate concerns. I can't stop a lawsuit.
Right.
I mean, you can always find a lawyer. I mean, in all due respect to my profession, there's a lawyer out there that will take a case no matter whether it has value and has legal significance or not. But it's a function of whether that lawsuit makes any sense. The problem is, and again, not to to beat a dead horse, every family has a special set of circumstances that needs to be considered. I don't care if it's the poor money management of a child. I don't care if it's the drug or alcohol abuse of a child. I don't care if it's the disability of a child. I don't care if it's a divorce situation or the potential divorce situation that they're concerned in. I don't care if it's the creditors or malpractice issues that may come to fold. There's always a particular nuance, and we need to explore it. We need to discuss it. We need to incorporate that into a cohesive plan to try to mitigate and eliminate some of those problems and concerns, that may come to pass in the future.
Paul, give everybody your phone number.
Sure. Again, my name is Paul Lavender, conveniently located here in Boca Raton. Telephone number is 561-998-2362. I also happen to have a son who's a wonderful attorney.
And a wonderful son.
Injury law. His name is Brandon. So should you be in the unfortunate set of circumstances where you're in an automobile crash or other injury or malpractice or medical malpractice, by all means, please feel free to call my son at 561-372-3800.
I love it. Paul's with us every month. I could have gone on for 2 more hours easy, Paul. You are one of, without a doubt, just don't wait. I mean, if you haven't learned with this pandemic, this virus, that you never know what's going to happen, give Paul a call tomorrow morning. And of course, you will work it out over the video streaming, and we're just so lucky to have you, Paul. Paul will be back again with us next month, and we'll be back on Monday at 6 o'clock with more Ask the Experts. Thanks, Paul.
Steve, thank you. Stay well, my dear friend. God bless everyone.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks for listening to the Ask the Expert Show, featuring interviews with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Call our office at 888-574-6999 to become one of our experts on the show. And tune in again next week for more Ask the Experts with Steve-O.